Hello, my name is Rebecca Jones, and before I became fabulously rich and famous working at the Grayson College Writing Center, I was an English major, like some of you may be, but at Austin College. So I've studied a lot of literature from different time periods and genres, but I think my personal favorite is Gothic fiction, and that's because I think people at the time would have agreed it was a real departure, especially for that time period, as I said, the end of the 18th century, from the moralistic kind of values and of literature of that day. So, obviously, among the most prominent works of Gothic fiction is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from 1818. I've seen film adaptations, but until I read the book, I had no idea what was really going on in the story. And until I read, many Gothic novels from this period, I really don't think I had any concept of just how influential they have been to our culture, and especially modern horror and literature, etc. So today I'm going to share a bit with you about the origins and the characteristics of the genre. We'll also talk really briefly about Frankenstein and the author, Mary Shelley, and then we'll survey some of the subsequent literature and media to observe the influence of the Gothic. So let's begin with the origins. As I said, it blossomed at the end of the 18th century. The official beginning was with the Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole, published in 1764. It was considered the first Gothic novel because Walpole actually coined the term. It was a big part of his lifestyle. He even had a Gothic castle built for himself, which he called Strawberry Hill. But subsequent Gothic novels also, along with Walpole's, I would say that they were very reactionary to different aspects, different societal norms at the time. For instance, in Frankenstein, I think we can see a commentary there on, the flawed notion of progress that people had at the time, associating it with the growth of technology, or say the Industrial Revolution. The darkness and the mystery of these books, I would say, and others have said too, that this is possibly a critique of Enlightenment ideals, which, pushed rationality and light and purity. So there are three main characteristics of the Gothic that you will find in pretty much any Gothic novel, and those include Gothic architecture, obviously, castles, monasteries, those kind of scary places, the supernatural, the exotic, and pretty much always there's a damsel in distress. So I would say that the most notable and enduring work of the Gothic era is arguably Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Canonical, obviously, you'll find it in any anthology these days. The story was conceived actually as part of a bet between Shelley, her husband, and Lord Byron about who could write the scariest story. As the title suggests, the story follows Frankenstein, but it's actually Dr. Victor Frankenstein, not the monster. He did create a monster, but not one that was so inhuman that it couldn't think and feel and eventually communicate and take revenge on his creator's family. So the monster is cast out, but unlike movie adaptations, he does not actually die at the end. So how is this all relevant today, though? I would say that elements of the Gothic persist pretty strongly in works over the last couple of centuries. Notably, in the 19th century, the works of Edgar Allan Poe, his short stories had similar melodramatic settings and overtones. We might never have seen Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, other works from the 19th century, Dorian Gray. And in the 20th century, where the television, film, and internet era was heralded in, we saw adaptations of Frankenstein, we saw sequels, we saw other monster movies, we saw adaptations, from Roger Corman of different Edgar Allan Poe stories, etc. Obviously, people still think castles are creepy. The supernatural still scares a lot of people, and the concept of the damsel in distress is more vital than ever, I think. if you think about maybe like Twilight or something like that. So, in conclusion, today we briefly discussed the genre of Gothic fiction. We talked about its origins, some of its most famous works, and some of its lasting impressions on our culture. Just think, if not for the Gothic, we might never have heard the Raven quote Nevermore. We might never have played Castlevania on Nintendo, and we might not have bared witness to the zombie apocalypse. So I hope you have learned something about this little-known literary genre. Thank you.